Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are back in the counselor's office for some more details. I keep saying that I'm going to do variety, and I do have videos to do, review. But at the same time, it is so much easier to just continue to do what we continue to do, which is talk about Destiny. Man, it is a one-note fairy right here. That's for sure. At least I streamed a different game, like I said I would. One of these things is true. It's not all like the other. But we're going to talk about, of course, Destiny. The reviews are starting to come in. FYI, I have not even started writing my review for the Edge of Fate. Honestly, I was going to wait for the Epic Raid. Don't think that's really going to change my overall, opinion on the expansion, whether you should buy it at this point. It's pretty obvious consensus, but I'm still going to give my brutally honest review. The new player, the free player experience, all that stuff, that's like side stuff. The new systematic changes, completely separate from what I'm going to review. And that's why it makes it easier to, I think, just go ahead and start working on a script for Edge of Fate, because when you look at it, there's really not much to review. So with that being said, I need to start doing that. But of course, the power grind has kind of sucked the soul out of me. And my time. And unfortunately, that's two things you have to do. You have to sell your soul, and you have to suck Bungie off and hope that you get good drops when you hit 400. Not gotten there yet. I don't have to start sucking Bungie off yet, but I have already seen people hit that quota. But today we're talking about reviews. Talking about Edge of Fate. IGN has put in their review, and usually it's very interesting. IGN's always like a toss-up of like, oh, are they going to be really stupid? Are they going to be on point? Are they going to make base reviews, or is this trash? It's always like random. They're never consistent where you're like, yeah, it's either it's really good or it's really ass. So let's see where we line up with the Edge of Fate review. This is long in the tooth. Looter shooter struggles to redefine itself, but at least try something new. If that's not the best tagline for Edge of Fate, it is a struggling looter shooter trying to redefine itself, but at least it's trying something, right? We could all say at least they tried something. Yes, that is definitely true. By Travis Northup. The Edge of Fate is a title that's perhaps a bit too on the nose for a game balanced on a blade honed by years of iteration, but also worn dull by time. That's fair. In the storied and rich tradition of Destiny 2, this latest expansion once again takes a few major steps back after finally feeling like maybe it's found its footing. What do you mean by that? The 14 mission campaign is monotonous and padded to the gills with busy work, despite having a sometimes compelling story. First off, absolutely agree. Like, Bungie was like, we got all these fun, these cool, exciting side stories, and I'm over here like, so what's that about cheddar, sharp cheese? What about cheese? Yes, there's literally a side mission about cheese, and it's supposed to be funny. And it's just busy work. It is absolutely busy work. It is everything we hate about, seasons, the busy ass work. You get to do that here. In fact, even some of the core missions is go to X, Y, and Z, and you go to the same mission areas back to back. You fight multiple bosses that are just generic bosses. Absolutely. But I do agree here that I think a perfect explanation for Edge of Fate is despite having a sometimes compelling story. This is probably a very fair assessment of the story. Sometimes it's really compelling. Most of the time, it's really fucking boring. The RPG and build crafting rework is locked behind one of the worst grinds Destiny has ever seen. I don't think it's fair to give, I did not agree with Bungie selling this expansion with the free stuff. I don't agree, even though Bungie themselves sold it that way, tried to convince people. I still feel like as a reviewer, it is only fair to weigh both separately. Now, they link together. You could argue why are we farming old stuff instead of the new stuff? That's a fair complaint. I don't think it's fair to link the grind with Edge of Fate itself, because the expansion the sins of the progression system is not attached to Edge of Fate, though in order to do like Mythic, you have to progress, right? So Mythic has its own problems. And the new planetoid of Kepler isn't up to Bungie's usual standards. It's fucking boring. But even as it stumbles in its attempt to redefine itself after the excellent ending to its original story and the final shape last year, I do admire the risk the Edge of Fate takes, both in the bold new direction of its story and the unexpected mechanics it tries throughout the experimental campaign, though it doesn't exactly nail either one. Top it off with a below average and by the numbers raid. I thought the raid was fucking fun. Someone's gonna point out the drama going on, but like keep that keep that out. Let's be like fair with our review and assessment here. Like the raid was fun. Yes, I've actually completed the raid 3 times. On normal. I'm just waiting for people to just sit there and write comments that are just going to go into the void. But like, let's be adults here. Let's grow up. Let's be serious. If you didn't like the raid, why didn't you not like the raid? I mean, just the actual raid itself. Fuck off with the contest mode. Like, what about the raid itself do you not like? You cannot like it, by the way. I'm not like shitting on anyone for like, oh, this. He thinks the raid is the best thing ever and he's shitting on people. No, you can dislike it. I'm very curious what about it people didn't like outside of the fact that it's literally just bosses. I thought the raid was fun. Maybe that's just me. Let's see, where were we at? Something about the raid. To top it off, the below average raid, or yeah, it was a below. And it feels like Destiny, like, how are you going to say below average? I think it's worse, better than Garden of Salvation. Like, I think below average is Garden of Salvation and Ruined Nightmares. That's me. And it feels like Destiny is in a bit of a messy spot, reminiscent of where the MCU was after Endgame. I said that in my Edge of Failure like video talking about how the community felt and what were the vibes. That is exactly what I said. Fumbling for what comes next following a conclusion that felt pretty well conclusive. I wish I could say the Edge of Fate picks up where the final shape left off, or that it can easily be enjoyed on its own. Both of these are extremely not true. If you haven't played every little scrap of seasonal content in the past year, you'll certainly be off to a rocky start. There's a new antagonist wearing the face and voice of an old character. Godlike beings formerly relegated to vendors and goofy game show hosts who have been repositioned as omniscient puppet masters who are now we're supposed to take seriously. I do agree. I think the worst fucking part of the entire expansion was the 9. Like, bar none, the worst. Like, we're supposed to believe the best way for the godlike creatures to take out Ikora Rey was throw a fucking train at her. Not having the collapse or some darkness kick her ass or kill her, like something cool. They literally just throw a fucking train at her. Okay. You might as well just had her walk, like, teleport her into the abyss or something. Who are supposed to take seriously in about 30 minutes of nearly non-stop info dumping that feels like something out of a pulp sci-fi novel, as voices explain how dark matter is totally different from the darkness and other gobbledygook. I agree. I think it was too much exposition dump. It was too much. It was trying to just force it. And it, like, I think dark matter is probably the worst fucking part of this entire expansion. It is, you could remove dark matter and the story would still be fine. Absolutely nothing about dark matter is essential to this fucking core story. None of it. It's just there to force feed this new mechanic. That is it. Which is why it conveniently, Bungie said that they're not progressing forward with the next expansions or the next year, that everything dark matter is staying on this planet. Go figure. The most generic, force-fed thing is going to be left behind. Yeah. gobbledygook. It's kind of funny. It's such a terrible opening. I feared the worst for a series that missed the storytelling mark more often than it hits. I do agree. I think Destiny has some of the worst repetition of like, we get a small section of good story and then it's just ass for like a year. Or you get an entire expansion and then you have most of the entire year that's also ass. Lightfall was completely ass. The whole story of it was garbage. It was just trying to barely fix together the story of Lightfall. It was only until like the very end of Season of the Wish that we got the cool cutscene with like Cade and Crow, and that was it for the whole year. That was the only thing that actually mattered. That was it. Everything else was just some bullshit. Like no one gave a shit about Riven and her mate. Like why do we keep bringing back dead villains? Talking about dead villains, Maya Sundaresh, shitty force-fed villain, but unironically, she was probably the better part of the expansion. The 9, you would think the 9 would be a lot better. They were probably the weakest part, in my brutally honest opinion. And the Fallen were just force-fed. You could take the Fallen out and nothing would change in my opinion. Nothing. Take the dark matter out, take the Fallen out, nothing matters. I feared the worst, yada yada, but a weak first couple of hours makes way for a tale that was actually much better than I was expecting, thanks to a very strong new supporting character, Lodi, which, by the way, people fucking shit on this guy. I don't know, even my community shat on him, but I liked him. I just thought some of the dialogue was a little monotone. I thought he was a G. I don't know, maybe because he was like more of the likable characters. Like Maya, no, who fuck off Maya, like the 9, fuck off 9, Ikora, even her, she was kind of annoying because she was copy pasting what like Savala had, a midlife crisis in the final shape, which I don't know why every expansion we focus on a core part of the Vanguard. Everyone has to have a fucking midlife crisis. Apparently that's just something everyone has to have. What was it? Echoes, Saint, midlife crisis. What was it? Revenant, Mithrax, and yeah, mostly Mithrax, midlife crisis. Heresy, Eris Morn, midlife crisis, or with the Drifter, who was also like, oh my god, she's dead, but she's not dead. Like, it was not built in, like it wasn't like earned, because she literally dies in the same cutscene and comes back in the next cutscene. Like, it's just this really bad storytelling that Bungie does because they don't give it time to blossom. They just done. It's like overcooking eggs. You're just like done here. It's all burnt and nasty. It's like there's some flavor in there, but it's mostly like, what the fuck am I eating? That's Destiny storytelling. Unironically, some of the best bits of the story aren't actually in the campaign. It's just the side books that you read. That's where more of the story. It's almost as if Destiny would be better if they just didn't have a story and it was just books that you read. You just read the books instead of playing the campaign. The books are probably better. Lodi, who is shrouded in a mystery involving time travel. Where have I heard that before? And completely unexpected backstory finally given to one of Destiny's long-standing cast members that really blew me away. There's plenty of wonky dialogue, less interesting characters like Orion Orin, whatever her name is, who mostly just fill space. She was probably, I was expecting her to have more to play, but she felt like such a side character. It's crazy. An over-reliance on established. I will say though, I was fully expecting her to be like the next Lightfall Osiris, being like Mr. Miyagi sensei teaching us the power of like dark matter. I will give Bungie, thank you for not doing that. They could have easily done that, but they didn't go that route. I'm glad we didn't have another Karate Kid moment where it went on for half the game, even though half the game was just like, do dark matter, dark matter, dark matter. Like they didn't learn their lesson there, but at least it wasn't another curse of another Osiris situation. Let's see, or mostly filled space and over-reliance on established lore across over a decade of content that can leave even long-time fans scratching heads. Plus, in an effort to make the new baddie intimidating, they do one of the biggest story pet peeves and retcon it so that actually all the stuff that's ever happened was all part of their master plan. I did think that was fucking stupid. I think that was the stupidest fucking thing. Like, guys, how are we going to make things better than The Witness? We're just going to retcon the fuck out of it and just say, he was all part of the plan. The witnesses, the darkness. By the way, they also retconned the winnower out. Like they in edge of like literally in the edge of Salvation's Edge, they teased the winnower, and then now they've kind of cut that out. Like there's no reference to the winnower. It's all about this extinction and the 9, which is like, why? Well, you set this up and now you're just retconning it out completely. So it's actually all the stuff that's ever happened was all their master plan. Insert massive eye roll. But on the whole, this is one of the better stories Destiny has pulled off. And I'm especially impressed by how many massive swings are taken to make me care about the next saga in the weird universe. This is perhaps best showcased by Lodi, who managed to effortlessly feel like an invaluable part of the cast despite literally showing up out of nowhere. I do think they did a much better, in my opinion, that Lodi, I think I said Lodi just 2 seconds ago. I meant Lodi. Lodi, they did such like Rohan and what the other Silver Surfer ass looking dude. I keep forgetting his name. He's annoying Cade knockoff. Like those are 2 shitty characters and they did shit all for them. Like they just shoved them down your throat. Here, it was kind of like gradual, like I learned to like him, right? I don't know. That's just me. I liked him. I thought he was a better way of introducing the character. He was kind of confused. He wasn't just like over the top. You know, there was some jokes at the, you know, the fact that our Guardian never fucking speaks and it's a shitty ass, stupid excuse not to do voice lines when you have like Destiny Rising that has a full voice line and everything, and it just sounds better and there's more connection with the world, which is one of the reasons I think the story is more barren, in my opinion, because you are not actually connecting with the story. You're just part of this weird anti-social simulation where you're just standing there like, hi, my name's Bob. The actual campaign, and especially the planet it takes on, far less well though. Kepler is Destiny's first foray beyond the celestial bodies in our immediate solar system. It's still in the solar system, so one might hope to marvel at the place that feel new and alien, but instead we get an overly familiar setting that reuses assets we've seen hundreds of times and slap them on loads of rocky cliffs and caves filled with yellow warts. We'll get to that in a minute if they mention it. For an excursion that's supposed to be a bold frontier that represents the future of the shooter, this is definitely one of the most lackluster settings they've added, to the point where I sometimes forget the Edge of Fate was supposed to take place on a new planetoid. Seemingly in an effort to disguise how small the area is, you aren't allowed to summon your Sparrow, which is instead replaced by a host of gimmicky abilities you have to use to access certain parts of the map, like the one where you turn yourself into a tiny ball and squeeze through narrow passageways. Samus style. This structure has the vaguest possible resemblance to a Metroidvania, but usually only succeeds in making the trek back and forth to complete humdrum quest more irritating. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've played Metroidvania, like actual Metro Prime, and it is far more fun and entertaining than this shitty mechanic. New abilities can interrupt the flow of combat in an odd way. Although those new abilities are generally irksome when they're required to get around, they much more welcome in the context of solving puzzles during story missions. One such ability has you pick up a portal gun that lets you teleport. I think the portal gun was the best fucking part. I'll be honest. Fuck Dark Matter. The teleporter gun was fucking fun. I like that. Especially when you're trying to like figure out the puzzle. That was enjoyable. So there are times where you find loot chests out of reach and have to use a combination of Samus Ball, the other two to clear the way, which can be pretty neat. Unfortunately, these puzzles are so incredibly easy to solve that they often feel like busy work to artificially stretch out the adventure 8 hours runtime than any. I spent about 20 hours and I was doing all the secrets, and I would concur. I would concur that it was just more fucking busy work. Nothing was actually over the top. It's like, oh, here's a secret. It's around the corner. Oh, it's a secret. It's behind the bush. It's a secret. Oh, it's behind the rock. Oh, it's a secret. Like, it's very predictable, and none of it was like complex. Nothing was like overly original, in my opinion. It was just the same-o. Like, the only thing that I would give praise is when I'm going to save it for my review. There was like some very clear secrets that are really good. I'm going to save that for the review because I don't think they did it. I don't think they did the secrets. I don't think they did Mythic. $5 says IGN didn't complete all that. I did. So check out my review for when it comes out. I'll give you a very fair assessment. Stretched out the 8-hour runtime, than anything of note. And since you can only use these abilities by finding specific nodes that grant you their power for a short time, I spent about 95% of my time running around searching for the tools needed to complete the puzzles, and only the other 5% actually solving them. Fair. Even though I admire Bungie had tried to incorporate these same tools into combat, they usually only serve to interrupt the flow in an odd way. For example, it's really weird that in order to kill certain enemies, progress a boss for its next DPS, you got to turn yourself into a little ball of light, roll around, collect items while enemies absolutely lather you in gunfire. You have little hope of dodging. Yeah, it's really annoying because you're literally, it has no defense. You're just like, hey, let me, sure, like you're a little harder to hit, but they can still, especially at Mythic, they can one fucking shot you. So you're like, oh, let me just have to go and rub my ball against your face real quick and then hope I don't die. That was fun. This awkwardness is magnified by the fact that they reuse these 3 tricks non-stop throughout the journey of Kepler, and it starts to feel needlessly repetitive in pretty short order. Still, I've been saying for some time that Destiny's been resting on the laurels of its awesome gunplay for far too long and needs a shot in the arm to keep my interest. And these puzzle, I don't know about that. Like, sure, Bungie heavily relies on this gunplay to carry the game, but I think that's kind of okay. Like, when I think of more Destiny, and one of the things that I will never complain about, it's the gunplay. Like, that's the reason you play the looter shooter. Outside of the loot, it's the gunplay. That's what makes me want to come back, right? There's no other game that does the exact same gunplay unless you're going back and playing Halo, but it's not a looter shooter. And the next closest one is maybe Borderlands, but even then it doesn't give you the same vibe and like experience as Destiny. Like, it will be a nice like substitute to go to, but once you kind of do everything there, if it doesn't have like an extensive end game, which granted Destiny right now doesn't even have a really extensive end game, they kind of butchered it. So maybe Borderlands will have a shot at overshadowing Destiny now as a looter shooter. We'll see. It's very possible. But yes, I don't understand how people would get bored of the gunplay. That is like the bread and butter of Destiny, in my opinion. And these puzzle forward abilities are at the very least an interesting attempt at doing just that, even if the execution is not always successful. Here's hoping this is the prototype for something more engaging and fleshed out in the future expansions. Please don't fucking do this again. Listen, just don't use actual abilities versus like, you know, I would rather be used to use the light and darkness abilities to interact with the world, like the kit I already have, make it more engaging. Like I have to use lightning or arc or something that's more engaging than a shitty ability or mechanic that isn't an actual ability. I'd rather get like special like aspects that unlock that do special things that interact with the world. That would be far more interesting in my opinion. The wonky abilities and forgettable location aren't the only reasons the 14 main missions in the Edge of Fate story are quite underwhelming though, as characters fill empty space with exposition as you fight bosses that are carbon copies of bad guys you've slain repeatedly throughout the years. To its credit, there are a few new enemies here and there, like flying aliens called Corsairs and little robot bees that swarm you, but their impact on moment-to-moment gameplay is pretty minor, where you spend 90% of the time shooting the exact same Fallen and Vex we've been murdering for over a decade. Even worse than the main missions, though, are the handful of side quests that you have literally retreading the same places you visited in the story missions to scan objects and hear some more character chatter or comms unceremoniously learning you completed the quest. Even for a game that has struggled to make interesting supplemental content, these are some of the most boring we've ever been subjected to, offering almost no benefit for completing them to boot. Yeah, you get shit rewards. And the dialogue, sharp cheese. Oh my God, sharp cheese. Like someone at Bungie thought, like this, I apologize. These are millennials writing this shit. They think it's funny. I don't understand. Sharp cheese. You might as well just do a poop joke. You might as well make a fart joke or a sex joke. You might as well just do some kind of innuendo. Actually, technically, Bungie almost did that. They were talking about Lodi's ass. Like the 9 was apparently hitting on Lodi's ass. Lodi's ass. Sorry. I'm gonna be saying it sounds stupid, but it was probably one of the few moments that was fucking funny because he was creeped out as fuck and I was laughing my ass off. Like that was actually kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that was humor done right, but that also could be my millennial side. But the cheese, like, some of the context, fucking stupid. The Edge of Fate also comes up with another Destiny 6-player raid called the Desert of Perpetual, which once again has us fighting literally and metaphorically robotic Vex. I've always enjoyed Destiny's raid, and this one is no exception, but it's also extremely familiar as it asks you to shoot nodes in a specific order, stand on platforms in unison, even jump through literal hoops. That it is kind of funny that you can actually say that this raid makes you jump through literal hoops. That is actually a fair assessment. To best all 4 bosses, despite an extremely unbalanced and hilariously inaccessible contest mode debut that made each encounter a hellish DPS check, the regular mode mostly lives in the same harsh but fair space that's basically tradition at this point. The fact that the first 3 encounters are non-linear, can be tackled in an order of your choosing is neat, a little gimmick, and the final boss has a unique look that's always an unexpected surprise, but it doesn't really distinguish itself in many other ways. 3 of the bosses are carbon copies of existing Vex baddies, and the environments are reused assets we've seen in the 9 adjacent areas before. Okay, the center point has. The other points we have not seen, like some of these, like they're kind of unique, the encounter spaces. Kind of unique. You could argue about like the final boss. It's still not, it's not like a 1-for-1, and we don't have like a lot of 9 sections. Like what we only had, what, the unknown space and the unknown space, Dares of Eternity, and Prophecy. Those are like 3 locations. Like let's I would rather have more of the 9 location than having carbon copy of like, hey, we're in the Vex network. Hey, it's the Vex network. Hey, it's the Vex network. Or hey, it's the Hive, whatever, right? At least this is somewhat a little bit more fresh. Not in my opinion. And many of the mechanics involved in overcoming each encounter feel pretty formulaic. They don't even try to make use of any of the new powers we are granted in the campaign. That is weird. I figured they would, to force people to give a shit about dark matter. I thought that was a very weird choice, which is pretty surprising, although perhaps a good thing given how they feel in the main missions. It's definitely still a highlight of the expansion, but falls somewhere in the middle of the pack when it comes to Destiny raids overall. The biggest change to Destiny 2 since the final shape are the rework to guns and armor, which have been overhauled yet again. Again, this part of the review, I'm just gonna, this is the free stuff. This has nothing to do with Edge of Fate, in my opinion. You're not when you buy this expansion, you don't get this. This is already free. I'm not one of those players who frets when updates and power creep invalidates my hard-earned loadout, so I don't actually mind most of the changes here. A new tier system provides extremely clear labels, just how good your loot is, so you can spend less time sweating over your stuff should you dismantle. And adding set bonuses to armor is a feature I've craved in Destiny for many years. That finally gives me a real reason to hunt for different armor sets instead of finding some good set and never taking off. The problem is that, at least right now, there isn't enough loot to chase, with just a handful of armor sets and a little over 30 weapons added to the pool at this point, so I didn't feel much of an incentive to rip and replace my current loadout yet. The real issue is that even if I did feel compelled to hunt down the new gear available, the insane, painful grind to do so is in no way worth the effort required. Once you complete the Edge of Fate campaign, you're directed towards various playlists containing old content that you've asked to replay over and over again, slowly upping your power level until you complete activities that grant higher tier loot. What's more, even these high-level activities are just pulling from the exact same legacy content that has already been one of the main ways you expected to engage with Destiny 2 for years. I was truly shocked to find that after I rolled credits on the story, I was almost immediately loaded into a story mission from 2021. Then, wait, what? I've got to do the new player experience, or like, that doesn't make, what? Because you should still get the same experience they did, even if you buy this expansion. Once you complete the first mission, it should roll into the next one. The new loot system has basically turned the end game of Destiny into an almost endless hamster wheel where you're force-fed the old content made arbitrarily more difficult based on the world tier and modifiers in play. Also, you can get slightly better versions of existing weapons that have little use beyond, you guessed it, grinding more difficult versions of the same activities. Destiny has suffered through some pretty egregious grinds over the years, but this might be just the most brutal and ill-conceived one yet, and it's almost immediately made me accept the fact that I'll never have any high-tier items until Bungie decides to my time. I do think that this is a sentiment that is going to murder Destiny. If you don't believe me, the numbers don't lie. And yes, I'm pocket watching the numbers because it's important. The numbers go down, Destiny dies. And this is probably one of the shittiest expansions we've ever had. I think I would be very interested to see the numbers of Curse of Osiris, because we've got to be getting damn near those numbers. Curse, like, I'm not even joking. Like, we've got to be getting Curse of Osiris numbers. For an expansion, this is fucking bad. Like, we're about to become week 3 when this video comes out, week 3, and we're almost back to pre-episodes. Like, our average is barely rising. Like, this is bad, dude. Like, this is not good. Like, this will kill Destiny. Faux show. Oops. Okay. Nope. That's talking about Destiny. There it is. Fat finger everything besides what I want. But yeah, I do feel like a lot of people feel this way. And sure, the most sweatiest is sweatiest. Like, I'm getting up to 400 myself. I'm like almost there. Like, people are going to get there. People are going to get there. But even some content creators are being like, hey, I'm doing this just to do it, just to see what it is. But I feel like a lot of people are not going to want to do this in 6 months. And no one's going to want to do this. Like, I'm going to be brutally honest. In September, when Borderlands 4 comes out, why the fuck would I waste my time grinding for shit? Like, it is actively better to go ahead and front load tier 4s, tier 5s, build craft as much as you can right now. Forgo, who gives a shit about set bonuses? Like, it's a neat trick, but at the same time, don't think I give a fuck. Unless they are breaking the bank and doing some crazy stuff, I don't think it's worth it. The time and acquisition, no one's going to give a shit. And I'm going to say this now. People running around tier 5s think, oh, people are going to look at me and think I'm all that. No one's going to give a shit that you have tier 5 armor. No one. No one's going to be like, oh my God, I just want to jerk you off. No one's going to give a shit. All it's going to do is piss them off and make them leave the game, because they're like, great, I have to be this sweaty loser who has no life. I have to sell my soul. By the way, I'm a sweaty loser, like no lifing, because luckily I'm on vacation. Like, you essentially have to be on vacation and then have no you can't have any human interaction. You have to essentially sell your soul. So the verdict, what is their verdict? Because you're gonna have to wait to see my verdict, because I have a lot more to say, a lot more. Verdict, especially since I actually am scraping through everything. Verdict. Destiny 2, The Edge of Fate isn't the worst expansion the looter shooter has been given, but it's a major step back from the final shape in almost every regard. See, I don't think it's fair. Like, I think it's fair to compare it to the final shape because it's a conclusion versus a beginning, but I feel like you should also compare this to other expansions, like smaller expansions, like Witch Queen, or even Rise of Iron would make more sense since that's what they compared it to, or Shadowkeep for that matter. Shadowkeep was kind of like the real beginning to the light and darkness. Like, obviously we've had it in Destiny 1, but this, like, Shadowkeep was cementing the actual lore of the darkness, and then Beyond Light took it the next notch up with Stasis and alluding to like the Witness, until we got Witch Queen, which really sent home like, this is the face of evil. I think it would be more fair to compare it to those than the final shape, to be honest. In the almost every regard, mixing content that simply more of the same with few experiments here and there that don't always work out. I quite enjoyed the surprising new direction of the story, though it's definitely a bit of a slog getting through the campaign to see it. I agree. And a so-so raid doesn't do much to salvage it. The new abilities on Kepler are at least interesting ideas, but the forgettable and claustrophobic areas don't offer many reasons to stick around. The changes to end-game progression are the real poison pill, though, which turn an already grindy game into absurdly repetitive death march into the bowels of Destiny hell. That is sure to put even the loyal of hardcore players like me to the test. They're goddamn. March into the bowels of Destiny hell. What a fucking statement. Damn. But true, based. That is probably the best explanation of the end game progression, is going to the bowels of Destiny hell. Even the loyalty of hardcore players like me to be tested. There are worse ways to spend your time than playing the Edge of Fate, but you don't have to look very hard to find better ones. Fair. There are better ways of spending your time. Fair. And there it is. It got a 6. It got an okay. It got an okay. Hey, you know what? It's 6 is okay. It's not great. It's not good. It's mixed, which is probably pro for the course. If we look at the metric reviews, generally people who aren't critics don't like it and think it's ass, but it's mid. It's mixed or average for critics, but most people think it's ass. I think that's even true for like Steam. Yeah. If we go to the store page, oh, it's recently just fucking negative. But if we actually go to Edge of Fate, we actually go. Oh yeah, it's fucking mixed. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I would have to say that it is probably the fact that this is a brand new intro to the saga. I would say this is a failure. It's an absolute failure. That as the intro to a saga, you don't want to shit the bed. And it seems like it shit the bed. But I will start working on my own brutally honest review. And yes, he didn't even mention like the sieve. He didn't mention mythic mode or anything like that. He didn't mention anything like outside of like obviously the raid is a big point. But he talked about the campaign and the side missions. But he didn't talk about like some core components. And then they also combined the free stuff, which I don't think is a fair assessment. They didn't even mention the freaking rewards pass, which comes with the Edge of Fate if you buy the expansion, which I think it's fair to assess it together. Yes, you could buy it separately if you're free to play, but if you buy the expansion, you get it's part of the deal. I would like to, assess the money, if you get money's worth out of it. There's a lot of things that they did not address. Like they even mentioned the guns themselves. Like, what about the gear that you earn? How about the guns? Like there's some like the crossbow, the raid crossbow. Like I haven't got it yet myself, but like I don't know. There's a lot missing from this verdict, and I understand that as a journalist, you're just you're running through as much as you can and to get it out. But that's why I like to see myself not as a journalist, but as someone who actually consumes as a consumer to give a brutally honest review, because I'm actually going through and dissecting everything I can, including like everything no one else wants to fucking do, like the power grind for the power progression side of shit. I appreciate you guys for watching this. Let me know, do you agree with IGN's review? Do you agree with their rating? How do you feel about what in general, even though they did talk about a lot of the free stuff, this is their review. It's not my review, but what do you think about that as well? I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, game out.